Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to my series where I'm looking at issues of PSM Magazine, the 100% independent PlayStation magazine. We're currently on issue 5 from January 1998, and this issue is a little noteworthy because it's a little bit thicker than most of the other ones that they've done around this time, but it's also the first time that they introduced the memory card stickers, as mentioned in the upper right corner there. So yeah, something that this magazine was kind of known for was the lid stickers and memory card stickers, and this is the first time that they introduced the memory card ones, so very cool. So let's dive into it here. 1998 was a giant issue a giant year for PlayStation, and video games in general. So this ought to be a really fun one to take a look at. And here we go. The inside cover advertisement is for Spawn. And this is so typical of late 90s. Get ready. It's kind of gross, but here you go. A little fold-out ad with some guy's arm that had been pulled off, and the joke is that you're going to use that arm as a weapon after you rip it off of an enemy. So yeah, very extreme late 90s kind of garbage advertising there. Ad for Crash Bandicoot 2. On the next page, a double page ad with Crash kind of standing by these Herculean men. Yet another issue where we've got a double page ad for Critical Depth, which pops up a lot in these early issues of PSM. And then in the intro page here, we've got the kind of letter from the editor talking about how 1998 is just going to be a huge year for PlayStation. And, he's totally right. He calls out Metal Gear Solid, he's spot on there. He calls out Mortal Kombat 4, not so much. Tekken 3, very big, definitely. And Resident Evil 2, which comes out this same month here, January. So, yeah, definitely. Just a few of some of the really big games that came out in 98. Stellar year, really. And then over on the next page, we've got just kind of the editors and their most wanted games. They're still doing that, as well as their New Year's resolutions. I always appreciate just the kind of dumb humor that comes along with some of these bits. So Noah in particular, I'll call him out. His resolution for 1998 is to find the sickest, most twisted codes out there, because he's kind of in charge of the codes section of the magazine. And he says, I've got codes for absolutely everything, like the lower rent code, the free gas code, and the ultimate paid vacation code. Oh, he says, I won't rest until I've got codes for everything, and then he lists those. So yeah, just, kind of dumb humor, but fun. Let's see. Who else has a good one worth calling out? Nobody. I'm just kind of looking at these. Charles Froman's got a prediction here that's kind of funny. He says, Bill Paris, their resident Japanese coverage guy, gets so excited playing Parappa 2 that his head spontaneously combusts. He dies happy. Yeah, not bad. I don't know, just kind of dumb humor. I dig it, though. So, double page ad for Duke Nukem again. Seen this a lot lately as well. A lot of reoccurring ads in the issues. You can tell they got into these deals where they had like so many months at a time, I guess, that they would run these ads for. Must have done them in bulk or as bundles. Table of contents here. We've got more Tomb Raider 2 guide, more Crash 2 stuff, guides. Beat the bosses. It says. Looks like. Armored Core strategy stuff, finding hidden parts. PSM 10 over here on page 63, they talk about like their top 10 games of 97. That's cool. I like that. And then, of course, the big draw here is the 1998 preview stuff where they talk about all the big stuff coming that they're excited about. So here we are in the news section. Monitor, right? News, reviews, that kind of thing. And it's just funny because they dedicate some space here to this ugly peripheral that's designed to blow air into your PlayStation. And I love this shot here on the side. It's a side view of it. I just love it because it's such a honking piece You can see it on their PlayStation there. It's just this big fan that you just basically duct tape to the PlayStation in a desperate attempt to keep it cool. Man, just another in a long line of like just ridiculous peripherals that came out back then. And then this ad here, you see these in like, it's not just this magazine, Uncle Jed's Game Shed. You see that in a lot of magazines, and they're always like these little quarter-page ads that they throw in here. And they got just like a shot of some hillbilly-looking dude. I guess it must just be like a like an online kind of superstore thing, but I just like the low rent presentation. Oh, and then here we've got an ad, or not an ad, but rather news on like the ugliest Lara Croft figure. I guess it's one of the first, but boy, not a great Lara figure there. Not like now. Now you've got like these amazing figures of like everything, even things with like the smallest number of dedicated fans gets a really killer action figure from like NECA or Play Arts or something like that. Different times. So here we are talking about a Final Fantasy movie, and they're talking about Spirits Within, I'm sure, and talking about CG and how far along it's come, and now we're getting a full-length feature, video game movie in CG. More on Net Eurose. That's a thing every month. They always talk about that. Looks like they're interviewing somebody here, somebody from Darksoft. So yeah, a lead programmer rather, from Darksoft. And then you see the start of an ad for Resident Evil 2. Oh, it's not the start of an ad. I guess it's just a quarter-page ad for Resident Evil 2. Maybe Capcom felt like there was enough hype, obviously, that they didn't need to break the bank with a double-page ad just yet here. So Fighting Force 2 in the works. Yeah, that does come out eventually. And then talk about Quake 3, or just Quake, not Quake 3, Quake on the way. Another explanation on Vibration not coming to the US just yet for reasons. Ad for Fast Break 98, and here we are, the Nihon Game Otaku section, right, where Bill Paris breaks down everything going on in Japan that you'd want to know about, talking about the sales charts and then like rumors on stuff that would be maybe coming stateside one day, as well as other random things like the Resident Evil 2 commercial that for whatever reason only aired in Japan. They went all the way to get George Romero to make this TV ad for Resident Evil 2, and then didn't air it in the States for whatever reason. And then you've got, I love this, these Japanese release dates, which really, that was like kind of the only way to get release dates for stuff. Games didn't have like solid release dates back then. They would fluctuate all the time. Things like, Resident Evil 2 coming out in January, I guess that held for a while, but like it was pretty common, I think, to see games get delayed all the time. And you just kind of have to like take a rough guess at when something was actually going to make it out. You have to call stores and just check from time to time. So talking about a Gundam game and updates on Tenchu. Tenchu is another game that would go over pretty well when it came out and landed on the PlayStation. So, and here we are on reviews. You've got an NCAA game that they must have really liked because they gave it a 5. You've got Caesar's Palace, which is like casino stuff. Bug Riders, which, oh wow, Bug Riders gets a 1.5. Let's see what they had to say about it. They say the graphics are plain vanilla. And just had to adjust my camera for a second there. Got a notification. They say the graphics are plain vanilla. The music is bold yet forgettable. Okay. The concept begs for merchandising, and I'll play it if I want to be annoyed. So yeah, not a lot of positive comments there. And then Courier Crisis. I was kind of looking for this review. We were looking at an ad in the previous issue. And I had said, yeah, I remember that the PSM crew really hated the game. And yeah, there it is with a 1.5 review rating. So definitely not fans. Monster Rancher, though, they liked that one. That one got a 4.5. And I spoke a bit about that in a previous video about just how I had played and reviewed that for a fledgling website at the time called Game Assault, and really dug it. So that's one I'll probably have to revisit for the channel here, because I have fond memories of playing it. It was cool. It was very unique at the time. So you basically, if you didn't see my other videos, you basically put in any disc, any kind of audio disc, and the game would generate a creature based on that disc. So you would then raise it, kind of like virtual pet style, but you do other cool stuff with it, like take it to battle, or other fun things like have snowball fights or play games or whatever like that. So yeah, Monster Rancher, definitely cool. Critical Depth, that's that game that's been getting double page ads for just about every issue now. That gets a 2.5. Frogger gets a 1. WCW Nitro, the yearly wrestling game for the WCW camp, gets a 2.5. And then, let's see, Namco Museum, Command & Conquer. They like Command & Conquer. It's a 4. And then the Star Wars Masters of the Terraskasi. That's the one-on-one fighting game featuring Star Wars characters. That gets a 3, which is kind of interesting because, I don't know, I remember that game being more of a 2. I remember not liking it. I played it, gave it a shot. But I wasn't, it wasn't anchored for me by like a love of Star Wars, so I guess maybe that went further for those guys. So here we are with more reviews. We got Skull Monkeys, we got Spawn the Eternal, and Versus. Now Versus is cool because I've been kind of waiting for this review to come up. I covered this one in a video just recently, where I played it and talked about it, and we've been seeing it get coverage in PSM in the issues before this one. So to see it now get reviewed, they give it a 2.5. They say an average fighting game that just doesn't, that has just enough innovation to warrant a look. So just enough to make it worth checking out. The graphics are pretty standard. The concept shows little innovation, and the music is 100% alternative rock. I'll play it only because I like fighting games. So yeah, that's pretty much, I think where I landed on it. Just looking over their review really quick here. It says the second point, this is something, I'm just kind of jumping into the middle here. So the second point lies in actual character designs, which are quite forgettable, which is really what I was saying about it. They said Polygon Magic spent so much time trying to make the characters different that it ended up making them unlikable. How long will anyone want to play as a pimp? It's fun the first couple of times, but in the end you can't treat the game seriously. Yeah, kind of. I'd agree with that. I don't really have so much a problem with the pimp character. He's one of the more interesting ones in the game, I think. Despite having terrible voices. They all have kind of bad voices, though. But yeah, no, I think I'm pretty much in line with their thoughts on that one. Very much a middle-of-the-road kind of forgettable fighting game, and it hasn't aged particularly well after all these years, so. This is funny. Iron and Blood in their flashback section, a game that came out before the magazine got started, and if they were to review it now, they would give it a 1, which I think is maybe even a little generous. That was a very bad fighting game. Ad for WCW Nitro. And here we go, the Preview 98. So they start talking about all the stuff that's coming out that they're excited for. And boom, right away here we are covering Tekken 3. And Tekken 3 is such a good one to talk about too, because that had a fantastic port. Like the arcade game was already great, but the PlayStation version somehow managed to be even better. Very cool. And we've got a lid sticker here for Command & Conquer, Red Alert. Must be something that the advertiser, or rather the advertising team for Westwood Studios put together. They know the audience of PSM, so I suppose that's a pretty good move. And they kind of break down, I guess I failed to point that out on the previous page, but what they're doing here in the bulk of the preview is talking about each specific major publisher / development house, right? So you got your Namco, Capcom, Acclaim, Eidos, etc. And talking a little bit about what each of them are doing. And then, of course, on the bottom here, covering Resident Evil 2. Sorry, the lid sticker's kind of getting in the way here. I'll try to adjust that a little bit for better visibility. But yeah, Resident Evil 2, which I think they're going to have a big blowout on this issue, or they should, because it's coming out like now. More on other big names at the time: Konami, Midway, Psygnosis, and then Sony's stuff. And also talking on the bottom about Metal Gear Solid, a game that they would obsess over for months and months until the game finally came out here. Mortal Kombat 4. So yeah, I know that they mentioned this one in like the editorial kind of heads up page, the intro page, but Mortal Kombat 4 wasn't so great, and I think the port was kind of so-so. They got some predictions, which is interesting. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of their predictions for 1998. They say the PlayStation won't lose its top spot, in reference to the competition with Nintendo 64 and the Saturn, and they're dead on there. I don't think they even mention the Saturn, do they? No, they don't, because I guess by 98 the Saturn's just about dead already. The Dreamcast is just a little over a year away at this point. Well, actually, it's closer to 2 years away, because it was September 99, and we're in January 98, so I guess by this time it's fair to say that I think the Saturn was in its twilight, but maybe not completely dead yet. But they didn't think to even mention it in that comment there. Vibrating control pads will finally hit the US. They were right on that. 98 Game of the Year, Metal Gear Solid. Yep, they were right about that as well. New PlayStation model released. So I can't remember if the PS1, like the revision, if that actually came out in 98 or if that was a little bit later down the road. Yeah, and I don't have like a phone handy to look it up here stealthily while I try to do the video, so I'm not going to bother. PlayStation price drop. They could have been right about that. It did seem like the PlayStation had several like noteworthy price drops that just kept keeping that thing at the top of the chain, kept it super competitive. Sega's new system, no problem for Sony. The long-rumored new console from Sega, Dural, or whatever it's being called, should release in time for next Christmas. However, due to the system's high cost and small startup software library, it won't slow the success of the PlayStation down one bit. And yeah, they're pretty right about that. I mean, the Dreamcast made a hell of an impression. It had one of the best launches of all time, in my opinion. They had just a fantastic lineup for that machine, and it is just a great console all around. But they were right. Yeah, it never managed to dethrone Sony. And I think, the PlayStation 2 having all the DVD capabilities and stuff that the Dreamcast did not was a big factor in deciding between the two for a lot of people. So, developers battle for the next Lara Croft. Let's see what they say here. They say, since Eidos first struck gold with Lara, we've seen a steady stream of tough girl lead characters in games like Nightmare Creatures, Death Trap Dungeon, yeah, okay, and Fighting Force. Expect plenty more developers to jump on the bandwagon in 98 with a plethora of poutier, bustier game babes. In a way, they're not wrong about the poutier, bustier thing, but I don't really know that I remember any standout lead female characters from the year. Video game-based motion picture finally sees the light of day. And so they're talking about these long-awaited movies like Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, or Doom. And yeah, I don't remember what year those came out. It had to have been pretty soon, though. That was right around that time, I think. PlayStation's installed base to nearly double in the US. Yeah, they're probably right about that. And PSM dominates all the competitors. Yeah, I think they were actually also right about that, too. I know the official PlayStation Mag had those demo discs every month, and people love those, but PSM really had a devoted following that really, really enjoyed it. I know they were a really successful magazine for a while they had the run, especially in the PS1 days here. They really had like a strong, like, devoted following in these early days. So moving on to previews here, this is a cool one. They got a double-page coverage of Alundra, and Alundra is another good one that I could cover on the channel sometime. It's one I didn't get to play back then, if I'm honest. I've played it a little bit since. It's been on my to-do list for like forever. And it's totally my kind of game too, which is weird that I haven't played it much. So yeah, I'll have to jump into that one sometime. This is like so kind of my thing right now, the sort of top-down Zelda-ish action RPG. I love that stuff. It's really I have no idea why I didn't play this back then. Duke Nukem Total Meltdown. Yeah, I did play that one. I had it, really liked it. That was my exposure to Duke Nukem, as I said, I think a few episodes ago. Klonoa. Klonoa, I played on one of the demo discs that came from somewhere. I don't know if it was PlayStation Underground or where it was from, but I played a demo for Klonoa and really enjoyed it, but never bought the full game. Not until years later, anyway. That would be, I guess, a good one to revisit on the channel as well. I've never completed it. I think I've played maybe played through the first or couple of bosses, maybe second boss. I was going to say the first few levels, but I know I've fought a couple of bosses. But yeah, that's a well-regarded game. I know you can get it on PSN right now, PlayStation Network. So if you got like a Vita or a PlayStation 3, definitely give it a download. The game For the Fifth Element, I think that gets a review in an upcoming issue of PSM, and they don't care for it, so stay tuned for that. Courier Crisis ad, I think we just found out how they feel about that one. This game where I constantly make fun of the design of the main character here, as well as the ad campaign that they go with for it. But I think it does review well in the end. It's one I didn't buy or play back then. I think it's another one I can kind of vaguely remember playing a demo of. And I think it had its fans and it reviewed okay. Death Trap Dungeon, though, I didn't play that one. I remember a couple issues ago, though, they had a preview, and the female character now, who is wearing a little bit more this time around, she just had like literally her armor was just nipple pasties connected with a chain, and that was it. So even though this is pretty scantily clad, I guess she's been upgraded from the original design. So 90s. So late 90s. Pitfall 3D preview. Not much to say there. I didn't play that one, as well as an ad for Command & Conquer Red Alert. Big 2-page ad for Star Wars Masters of the Teräs Käsi, that fighting game that they reviewed earlier in the issue and gave a 3 out of 5. It's another one, again, I think where I played it via demo before giving it a rental, thinking maybe it would be better from, the full release version being better than the demo. But no, not so much. I guess if I can just hang on this one for just a little bit longer here. I wasn't a big Star Wars fan back then, but I was a big fighting game fan, and I was especially a big fan of 3D fighting games. And so that's what kept me kind of interested in this one and checking it out, plus thinking that, it's cool, you get lightsabers and stuff, those are a neat weapon, and you get like the Star Wars theme will play, I'm sure. So yeah, just kind of just enough there to keep me interested in this one and make sure that I checked it out after thinking the demo seemed okay. I kind of remember renting that one. Forsaken, I don't remember much about Forsaken other than the TV ads that would play all the time during wrestling. You could probably go find it on YouTube now, but there were these ads that would just like start out by somebody repeating, "The future is forsaken, the future is forsaken," over and over for a little bit. And that is the entirety of what has stuck with me over the years about that game. Just the repetitive intro of the commercial. I don't even know what kind of game it is, what it's about, nothing. I would guess maybe it's a racing game based off of the little vehicle thing there, but no idea. And then you get the one-page version of that great ad for Colony Wars. And then, this is interesting, a 2-page preview for Cardinal Sin, which is an exclusive fighting game for the PlayStation that I think Sony published. There we go. Upper left side of the magazine here, you can see the publisher was Sony CEA. It must be coming out pretty soon because it says release date January, and this is the January issue. But I remember thinking that this wasn't so great. I don't know, maybe I'm getting this mixed up with another fighting game or something. Because actually kind of some of these screens kind of look cool. I like this one here. This looks like my kind of cheese. You've got like a dragon's head around the life bars there. Looks like some cool daggers to indicate who's won around here and there. So yeah, I don't know. It looks like maybe this is one I'll have to track down and check it out for the channel. I think I've been confusing this with another fighting game that was not very good back then. An ad for the glove again, and more preview coverage of Resident Evil 2. So yeah, that's supposed to be coming out the same month that this hit shelves, but I guess they did not have a review copy in time, so we get some more preview footage. Preview of Vigilante 8 as well as Bloody Roar, two games that I really enjoy. Bloody Roar, I should have a video up on the channel soon if I don't already. And Vigilante 8, I'm working on it right now. I don't have a copy of that one. I'm kind of looking to acquire one at some point here, but I'm taking my time. It's a little harder to find some of these old PlayStation games in the retro stores than you might expect. And I don't always really want to pay eBay prices either for some of these games. So, and also, the other thing about eBay is when I buy some of these, I tend to look for complete copies that aren't scratched. I'm kind of picky about scratches, and you find these discs on eBay all the time that like don't have a case, don't have a book, and you know it's like they sat underneath the seat in somebody's car with no case or anything for like 4 years before it was discovered, and then I'll put this on eBay for $20 or something. Yeah, a little bit of a rant there, but. Vigilante 8 is one that I would like to track down and definitely do on the channel because I was a huge fan of Car Combat at the time, and I enjoyed Vigilante 8. I've got some stories to tell about playing that one. Bloody Roar, that's another really good fighting game. Like I said, I've got a video up on the channel, or will very soon, depending on the order that these things go up here. Winter Olympics game along with an ad for Tomb Raider. I'm just going to keep blowing right by those both if you don't mind. Well, the Tomb Raider ad, I guess, is kind of noteworthy. It's a little fun. You can see this guy sitting in the corner of his room. He's kind of out of his mind. He's got a shrine built to Lara Croft. That sounds about right. That was almost me back then. Not really. I didn't have a shrine, but the top 10 of 97. Number 10 is Parappa the Rapper. And I like the layout of this, if I can call that out. I like that each game gets a full page here, right? And you get... you know, not necessarily a screenshot, but just like some great art that kind of represents the mood, the vibe that the game is supposed to give off. So yeah, I just like to call out the design here. It's really slick. I like the way they present this. Let's see, what gets number 8? Test Drive 4. And I think I called that out in this video, or maybe the one right before this. I can't remember. I tend to do these in bundles, so I can't remember what I've said in a specific video all the time. But Test Drive 4, I remembered that making the top 10 list here. And in between pages here, you got these great PSM memory card stickers. I called that out because they made note of it on the cover. This was the first time that you would see these in the magazine. And they would do this a few more times here that I can remember. But this was cool. You know, if you had memory cards and you wanted to kind of make them stand out a little bit from each other, and you know you like your little gags with the editorial crew here, then yeah, these were perfect for that. And plus they had some for you know some of the bigger games there at the time: Crash, Tomb Raider, Final Fantasy, and Armored Core. Number 7, Street Fighter EX plus Alpha. No surprise there. I love that game. It's very deserving of being on the top 10. 6 is Colony Wars. 5 is NFL Game Day 98. Number 4 is Tomb Raider 2. 3, Crash Bandicoot 2. So we're getting down there. Can you guess number 2? Can you guess number 1? We're talking 1997 here, right? So this is looking back at the previous year. Look at that. Number 2, Final Fantasy VII. Number 1, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. As it should be, everybody, all right? As it should be. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. One of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion. Absolutely love that game. And I was pretty thrilled to see it come out on top of Final Fantasy VII. I like both games a lot. Don't get me wrong. I adore Final Fantasy VII. But Symphony of the Night was that game in that year that While it got a lot of great reviews, you know, it was a critical darling and everything. It didn't move units like Final Fantasy VII did, right? And you didn't run into people online or at school or whatever who were talking about Castlevania the way that they talked about Final Fantasy VII. Like, I didn't have a ton of friends in high school, but I had like maybe a handful who played video games, and every one of them played Final Fantasy VII, but I was the only one who played Symphony of the Night. And Symphony of the Night was just such a huge game for me. It was landmark in every way. So, yeah, very cool to see it take the #1 spot here. All right, so Tomb Raider 2, we got more walkthrough here, which, as I've said before, you know, pretty invaluable just because no YouTube, and you didn't always want to spend money on strategy guides for these. They dedicate a lot of space to this stuff. I mean, this is the kind of thing that used to sell issues off of the newsstands, though, too, you know? If you didn't have a subscription or whatever, but you like Tomb Raider, and you're like, oh, I've been stuck on this level, and then you just notice that this magazine has, you know, a walkthrough. Oh, well, I guess I'll pick this up. So I think a lot of these magazines that would do this kind of stuff would see a fair amount of success from that. Cool Borders 2 and NBA Live get the inserts here. Slide this over for a second. Looks like they talk about doing moves in Cool Borders and then shooting the ball in NBA Live and making the baskets. More Tomb Raider 2 strategy on the other page. Still going, man. They put a lot of resources into the strategy guide there. And then you've got a one-page ad for Alundra, which looks really cool. It's a great ad, actually. A very, very striking ad. Sticks out, grabs your attention. Still going on the Tomb Raider strategy. And I'm going to guess that's the last page of that right there. One of those scammy contests on the other page. Oh my god, I was wrong. They have more Tomb Raider strategy. That's got to be it, though, because that's endgame stuff right there. So, yeah, and I was right. Okay, so here we are now. We've got Armored Core stuff going on. Talking about where to find hidden parts. Oh, and they do this cool thing. If I back up the page, sorry. They do their own custom picks for an Armored Core mech. So very cool, the PSM Boomer. And here we are with some Crash stuff, as well as an ad for Next Generation Magazine, sister publication. And onto the code section here. So we got, looks like Test Drive 4, Broken Helix, and oh, this is kind of current and relevant in a way, but Marvel superheroes here, right? Play as Thanos. And at the time of this recording, we just had Avengers Infinity War come out in theaters not too long ago, and kind of take over the mainstream consciousness for a little bit. Croc, Nightmare Creatures, got some cool codes for that. Play as a monster for Nightmare Creatures, that's cool. I wish I had known about that when I did the video on that game. I could have tried that out. I guess I should start looking at these issues more before I before I do these videos with the corresponding games. Some more codes for games. MK Mythologies. Kart. What is this one here? Grand Tour Racing. A lot of these I didn't play. Excalibur 2555 AD. I don't even remember that game. An ad for their own tip line here, or for the Ultra Game Players tip line. And how much was that? That was, calls cost $1.49 a minute. Yeah, you could rack up a phone bill with that. What would they, let me back up. What are they advertising here? Do they list any specific games? Okay, Final Fantasy VII, GoldenEye, Madden 98. I bet that is so the kind of thing where you call the number and they're like, 4 tips on Final Fantasy VII. Raising a chocobo can be difficult. And you're like, yeah, come on, get to it. But it can pay off big. Yeah, I know. Help me out. You can obtain several powerful summons by raising chocobos. Yes, I know. Get to it. Tell me about how to get Knights of the Round. I need it. Well, first, yeah, I could just imagine it taking 20 minutes of your time to get them to get to the good stuff here, the relevant stuff. Calendar of events. They always do that every issue because they've got all these like sister publications that they're tied in with. that they share web space with. And then getting into letters here. So we'll just pick something at random here. Import Mania. Hello, I just read your first magazine and I think it's great. I like the import pages the best and think they should be expanded on. And another guy says, hey Bill, you're doing a great job on the wonderful otaku section, but it needs to be larger. Are you planning to expand it? Bill says, beginning this issue, it will be expanded to 4 pages. So yeah, that was, I think I called that out a couple of issues ago, and maybe even in the video for that first issue about how that would that section would grow and be really popular. You'd always hear about it in the letters section, and it would kind of carry over, really, like a lot of the otaku vibe and jokes, right, would kind of just permeate through the magazine over the years and bleed into like the overall sense of humor. Let's see. Boy, some of these letters are pretty long, so I'm not really going to read them. But yeah, you've got more stuff here. What do they say about Castlevania? Just because they got that picture of Alucard there, it's pretty interesting, right? Gets my attention. I just purchased Croc and Symphony of the Night, and they look great. Who says the PlayStation can't run a true 3D game? Looks pretty awesome to me. And as for Castlevania, I'll just say I'm sitting here staring at the mind-blowing graphics and enjoying the orchestrated music. Unbelievable. Konami has really pulled one out of its hat this time. I do have a couple of questions. I heard that Sony titles such as Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back, will only cost $29.99. Is this true? And do you have any information on Final Fantasy Tactics? Is it going to be action combat or actionless like Final Fantasy VII was? And then just to kind of quick read the responses here. Well, you're preaching to the choir, dude. Castlevania is one of my favorite games of all time, and I hate to see people dismiss it just because it's 2D. People need to get past their 3D infatuations and learn that games should be based on their gameplay and fun factor. Yeah, preach to the choir, dude. It says Tactics is a lot like Vandal Hearts, except it has more depth and cooler looking graphics, and I can't argue with that, man. Vandal Hearts is another good one I should do on the channel sometime. I really like that game. But yeah, it's not much of a looker. So they had a contest here over on the right page. You can see that they were encouraging people to provide captions for a screenshot of Resident Evil, and you can see the winners listed there. I don't know if you can kind of read those. I'll lift it up a little bit. I'm not going to read them myself, but you can pause the video and take a look. Kind of meh. I think number 3 there is the most clever of the bunch, personally. Top this section again with their challenges every month, as well as like pictures of what the editors are up to. So it looks like the cover art for issue 3 won an award rather in their company amongst all their publications that they do. It was picked as the best, so that's cool. I called out when we were looking at that one that it was a really neat looking cover, very bright and colorful. And then I like this little picture here of one of the guys wearing a Chop Chop Master Onion outfit with the other guy holding a Namco gun con while standing behind him. What does that say there? The caption is, Bill and Eugene recently modeled their Halloween costumes to promote their new UPN show airing this fall, Chop Chop and Hutch. Yeah, it does kind of have a buddy cop vibe to that photo. Good job, fellas. Marketplace, we've got more ads like usual, more addresses to go, more addresses to go stalk people at. Again, different time. And then the look ahead to the next issue, they've got a blowout on Resident Evil 2, which you'd expect considering the game should be out by then, as well as a report on what do they think makes a good game. And then they've got some more updates on games like Metal Gear, of course. You can see that every month until it comes out. Mega Man Neo, Bloody Roar, and some others. And then the inside back cover ad is for Parappa the Rapper. And then the back of the cover is the Enter the Gecko ad. So that is issue number 5 of PSM Magazine for January 1998. Thanks again for hanging out, taking a look at this one with me, and As always, stick around, check out the channel. We've got videos on related games that are covered in all these issues, and I'll have more issues of the magazine coming up very soon as well. So stay tuned, and hey, thanks again. We'll catch you next time.